Trying to find out. I've got. Oh! We're live. We're live. We're live-ity, live-ity, live. Or are we? Let's refresh. Trying to find out. I've got. Oh! Wow! We're live. We're live. We're live-ity, live-ity, live. Or are we? It works! I was just stopping, listening to myself and typing for a second. Trying to find out. So I'm going to turn that off. And I'm just going to do the thing that I said I was going to do. Oh, here's a thing I could do too. I'm going to do this and this and this. And going to say on my Facebook channel, man, my lips are dry. And my water's empty. I'm going to have to get another one in a moment. Live now. Bing, 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 bing. I'm live now. Bing. I'm going back and forth and looking at my settings, looking at my stream, doing all these different things. Yikes, Buffer doesn't have permission to post on your behalf. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I don't need to do it. Where's that at? An interesting shade. No, that's not the one I want. Let's go to this one. And the analytics, concurrent viewers. Okay, I got no viewers, but that's okay. That's quite all right. Like I said, this is the very first live stream of Basil Sands from Basil's live studio in Anchorage, Alaska. And I am going to right here give you a bit of story. Are you ready? This little bit here is from a book that isn't actually published yet. Matter of fact, it's from a book that isn't actually written yet in total. I've got chapters. And I'm thinking I may just end up making it an audio book right from the beginning. Just do a podcast thing of it with chapters. Anyway, I'm going to be reading from book 2. Oh, since this is the first pilot episode, I'll explain a little bit about what's going on around me. Around me here is my booth. This is a custom-built booth that I builded by my own custom self, and it's basically a 4x5 wooden padded box made with insulating blue foam and sound dampening board around it, as well as a regular 2x4 frame. Or actually, I built it as 2x2, so it would be a little bit lighter so that I could disassemble the whole thing and carry it with me anywhere I want to go. It's kind of like one of those booths that you would buy online for $5,000 to $10,000 or so on, except I built mine for about $1,000. I built it by hand, and luckily I built it right before I started breaking my body apart and can't do very much physical labor any longer. The destiny of all old people. And see, look, I am old, by the way, in case you're wondering. See, silver right there. So, lucky for me, my lineage has this color hair. My grandmother was 90 when she died, and her hair was still brown, black actually. And my father is almost 80, and he's got still his dark brown red hair. Anyway, we're not here to talk about my hair follicles, or yours for that matter. Although if you'd like to make some comments in the comment thing and say, oh, hey, look, talk about my hair, then you could do that. This, by the way, is going to be silly. I'm going to be recording, and what you're going to see is actually the way I narrate. I talk to myself, I make noises in the booth, I scratch myself. I will attempt not to let bodily noises affect the thing, but sometimes that happens, and that'd be gross. Anyway, yeah, I'll stop. I'll beep. One word of warning, just so that we don't surprise you. When I make a mistake, and I catch it myself, I make a noise that puts a mark on the screen for me. And that's so what you'll be able to do is be able to watch me recording a book, or what would be like me recording a book. In this case, I'm just reading a story to you, or reading a scene rather. And yeah, I'll be making a noise. When I make a mistake, it'll go meep, like that, and that puts a little line. You'll see it on the bottom right. Oh, wrong hand. You'll see it on the bottom right there. That's my Adobe Audition screen. So when that starts, you're going to see the spectral display of Adobe Audition go across the screen in colorful colors, as well as on top of that, the regular frequency display that goes up there. Okay, here we go. The live reading of An Interesting Shade of Blue, a scene from The Brothers 4, Book 2, written by me. This scene, to set up the scene, the story The Brothers 4, I wrote the first novel for it all the way back in 2015 and have not been able to get the next one done because I wrote several other totally different novels over the ensuing 5 years after that. And now I'm trying to get back into writing it, but I might end up, like I said, making it here. Now, I've been jabbing and gabbing and talking for a long time here, and yeah, I haven't started reading anything yet. Just because I'm waiting to see if anybody shows up. There's 3 viewers. So, with you 3, oh wait, the camera's here. With you 3 viewers out there, I'm going to start. These are, I was setting up the story, sorry. These are 4 leprechauns that live in the basement of a guy named Colin, loosely based on myself, very loosely, so loosely, in fact, that there's almost no resemblance, except that he has a dog named Heimdall, the Yorkie, and that he lives in, well, a figurative version of the same house I live in, and these leprechauns in the story happen to be the same 4 leprechauns that live in my crawlspace, and they're kind of my muses, sorta. But you'll see why. Anyway, here we go. An Interesting Shade of Blue. The 4 leprechauns are out doing the things that they do here in Anchorage, Alaska. And, well, we just jump into the story now. How about that? An Interesting Shade of Blue by Basil Sands. This is merely a chapter. This is a scene. Scene 1. You can't walk on water, Feely, eldest of the 4 leprechaun brothers that lived in Colin's basement, shook his head. The early morning sun caused steam to rise from the only just recently, and not yet completely, thawed body of water. "Yes, I can," Boffin, third of the brothers, insisted. He knelt down at the edge of the remnants of winter ice that ringed Goose Lake and dipped a finger in, yanking it back with a quick inhalation. It was still very cold. "I have figured out the precise speed at which I can walk to keep the mass of my body moving across the surface of the water without sinking." "The only one who ever walked on water," said Neely, the second brother, "was the Lord himself." Boffin waved his hands. Meep. That's where I would stop and go back and edit in a regular book. But I'm just going to imitate. Oh, no, actually, you know what? You know what I didn't do? I didn't hit record. Blimey! Okay, I've got my new little control surface down here, and I hit record, and I'll start over. Now you should see that screen going down there, moving away, and since I hadn't been recording the entire time before, now I'm going to start over, and I'll not make that mistake, I hope. Here we go again. An Interesting Shade of Blue, written by Basil Sands, narrated by the author. This is merely a scene from the book, though. He's too cheap to do the whole thing at once. Besides, it's not even written. Anyway, here we go. Chapter 1. You can't walk on water. Feely, eldest of the 4 leprechaun brothers that lived in Colin's basement, shook his head. The early morning sun caused steam to rise from the only just recently and not yet completely thawed body of water. "Yes, I can," Boffin, third of the brothers, insisted. He knelt down at the edge of the remnants of winter ice that ringed Goose Lake and dipped a finger in, yanking it back with a quick inhalation. It was still very cold. "I have figured out the precise speed at which I can walk to keep the mass of my body moving across the surface of the water without sinking." "The only one who ever walked on water," Neely, the second brother, said, "was the Lord himself." Boffin waved his brother's doubts away. "Don't forget St. Peter. He also walked on water." "Yeah, but that was only because the Lord gave him power to do it," said Feely. "Even then, the good book says the holy apostle got scared as a little child a-looking at the wind and them waves," said Nearly. "And he'd have sunk like a fish with rocks in its head if it were not for the Lord pulling him up by the hand." A group of swans landed nearby and paddled along the edge of the lake. "Peter sank," Boffin replied, as he took off his shoes and tightened his belt, "because he did not continue the proper momentum. Besides, that was in a storm, and these are calm waters. Having learned these lessons of history and logic, I am like the story, but better." Feely put his hands on his hips and muttered, "The only part of the story you're like is the part about having a head full of rocks." The youngest brother, Bertold... Okay, I'm going to stop and fix that because I said Bertold. Bertold. They say stop. "In the name of love." The youngest brother, Bertold... Bertold, I said. Okay, here we go. Like is the part about having a head... Okay, there we go. Gonna go again. And... Like is the part about having a head full of rocks. The youngest brother, Bertold, spoke up. Boffin, have you accounted for the density of your mass? You are 3 foot 6 inches tall, and yet you weigh 15 stone. That's 220 pounds, tightly packed into a body the size of a suitcase, which translates to approximately 7 pounds per square inch on your size 8 feet, when walking with only 1 foot touching the ground at a time. This water still retaining ice on its surface, the related surface tension of the water is 75.64 millinewtons per square meter at 0 degrees Celsius, which translates to "Get to the point!" shouted Feely, Nearly, and Boffin simultaneously. "You can't walk on water, Boffin," Bertold said. Boffin took 10 steps back from the edge of the lake ice. "I'll prove you all wrong. Just watch the miracle of Boffin, the amazing water walker." He ran towards the water, short legs pumping like the pistons of a steam engine. He stepped on the rim of ice and continued beyond it, taking 5 large steps across the surface of the water. "He's actually doing it," muttered Nearly, eyes growing wider with every step his brother took. Boffin's mouth stretched wide in a huge grin, sunlight glinting off his teeth, sparkling through his steamy breath. The swans rose from the water and flew briefly to his sides, honking as if cheering him on. He prepared. My lips were not prepared for that line. You see, this is a very imperfect science that I do. As you may have noticed, I've suddenly turned English. That happens. Even when I don't intend to sometimes. He prepared to be... Here we go. And where was that line? You see, one of the other important things is to make sure that before you click the record button, your eyes are on the line you need. All right. He prepared to begin. He prepared to begin. He prepared to begin. Here we go. Sides, honking as if cheering him on. He prepared to begin the loop back to shore, triumph shining in his eyes, pride writ large across his entire being. Leprechauns are capable of surprising speeds, especially considering their height-to-weight ratio and minimalist dimensions. Of the brothers, Boffin was the most accomplished runner by far and beyond, having won both silver and bronze medals at the last 2 Fairy Olympics in running events. All of his strength, all of his training, all of his inborn skill enabled Boffin to prove beyond the shadow of a doubt of any sentient being, and many non- and semi-sentient beings, that the laws of Newtonian physics remained firmly in place. Plop! Boffin disappeared beneath the surface of the water, a tiny fount of water leaping into the air, then falling back with a smaller plop. His arms and legs did not burst out of the water in a panicked attempt to swim. After several seconds, the ripples he'd created broke against the icy shore. Soon the surface of the frigid lake stilled to an undisturbed mirror of the sky above. "Ah," said Nearly. "Shouldn't we do something?" "I'm not swimming in there, it's cold," said Feely. Bertold went to the edge of the ice rim, pulled up a sleeve, got down on his belly and reached his arm into the water. "Oh, owie! Oh, matron saint of refrigeration and automatic ice makers, this is cold for sure! Oh, ah, ooh, I have his hair! I have him! Help me pull him up! Feely and Neely came up beside him, each grabbing handfuls of Buffin's hair, and heaved until he was out of the water and onto the ice. A pair of geese circled overhead, then landed again, paddling near the frozen leprechaun. Their honking bore an uncanny resemblance to laughter. "Oh, my," said Neely. "Now that is an interesting shade of blue." Well, what did you think, my friends? That is, that was a very short chapter. That was, wait. I'm no longer English. All right, so anyway, Basil is back. That was a very short chapter. That's the kind of chapter that I do. Matter of fact, recording this 5-minute and 56-second chapter in the middle of the day like this, I actually took a break from several hours of recording that I had just done in a different novel altogether for someone else. This book, Interesting Shade of Blue, like I said, is very likely to end up being a podcast and all come out this way. Unless someone, like a podcast book buyer person, wants to give me a break. So anyway, that was that presentation. It didn't take very long. I hope you enjoyed it. Oh, you know what? I'm going to minimize that guy from me and see. Oh, hello, Judd Porter. Judd Porter is an old friend of mine from long, long ago, back in Ohio. And yeah, that was awesome. So let me see. Anyone else? That's how I see that there's only two. I scared one person away apparently, which, you know, this is the that's the thing that happens to people like me, to artists like myself. People come, people go, people look at us and they say, he's weird. And then they walk away. And then some people, they're also weird and they stay. On that note, I'm going to let you get back to your life. And I have to record some more. I'm about to go in and make dinner, though, in a few minutes. If you want, you want to know what we're having for dinner? It's really good. My wife is and I are going to make it. We're going to have something very similar to the Korean dish called champong, which is like a seafood and noodles soup with a red spicy sauce, except we're using the Korean ramen, the red noguri ramen, and putting in some octopus and some shrimp and some rockfish. Yeah, baby, it's going to be good. So anyway, I think this is going to be recorded, or it has been recorded, and it's going to end up being something you could watch later. So those of you who are not among the 4 viewers who looked at this thing throughout and the 2 of whom left, then, yeah, you can watch it later. Or actually, I guess I should say you are watching it later. This is like time travel. Hello, person in 2027 who's watching this. I see you. And on that note, I'm leaving.